Okay. Let me do this, share. Okay, so right now we're going to be covering the QuickBooks portion of the presentation. The first part, we covered business, and we covered the different types of entities, sole proprietor, partnership, and S corporation, which we said those are individually taxed and have their own tax rate, and they follow your individual tax rate. Corporate income tax follows another one, which is currently 21% tax. So we talked about the structures and when it is a good time for you to convert to the others. So for most of you, you're going to be in the first category where sole proprietor, partnership, and S corporation. So when we look at the reports today, we're going to talk as if you're one of those three. Okay, we talked about gross revenues or total income and fixed expenses, variable, GE taxes. We said payroll taxes, but didn't cover it in detail, and mixed expenses. And so we talked about how all of these subtract from the total income and then give us net income. And that net income is the number that you pay taxes on. We spoke about the SE tax, which was 15%. We spoke about federal income tax and Hawaii income tax. This here is a flow chart on how these taxes exactly end up on your 1040 personal tax form. A Schedule C is one of the forms on the 1040. So it's just an attachment form, and that's how you get your income and your expenses to flow through to your personal return and then ultimately paying individual income tax. The 1065 is a partnership form, and that is the form where you report your income and expenses. Then it's divvied up for the two partners or more partners. That goes on a K1 form, which is a form of net income that goes on the 1040 and ends up on the individual taxes. S corporation, we kind of spoke about, the form number was 1120S. 1120S, that the income and expenses are reported, that goes on a K1 form, which again is the net income of your business. And that goes on your 1040, and that ends up on your income tax form on the individual side. So all three of those are taxed at the individual tax rate. We spoke about how your individual income tax rate depends on your overall picture and who else is filing with you. So if you're filing with spouses, et cetera, it's your combined income and that rate. And lastly, we kind of spoke about the C corporations and how they have a flat tax rate of 21%. And where if your business is at a level of 200,000 or above, that's when it's a good time to switch because you can really take advantage of that 21% tax rate. This here is just the form, the old form 1040, where you can see your W-2s on your personal tax return gets added to your interest, gets added to your dividends, gets added to your business net income. And if you have a partnership, your net income from that ends up on the form. And then there's unemployment and Social Security, and every single piece of every income that you make gets combined here. So when you file your taxes, this was just to show you, yes, it really does end up all in one place. And that's why your individual income tax rate is affected or directly affected by the business income that you make. Okay, we covered general excise tax. We had some questions on the G45s and the G49s. So we covered all that and the different tax rates. And then we, again, discussed the profit and loss statement. We didn't cover much the balance sheet because not everybody really understands it, and I don't feel that you absolutely have to have it as part of this QuickBooks session. But a balance sheet is your net worth statement. You know, what are you worth? You're worth up to all the assets that you have minus everybody that you owe. The difference is what we call your equity. So it's the net of everything that you own and owe. So a balance sheet is going to reflect the net amount of everything you own and owe. And so that's how banks use this to see whether or not your debt to income ratio is pretty good or not. Okay, so now I'll pause for any questions that anyone has so far, but if it's a detailed question for something we covered in the first session, I'm gonna have to skip it.
I don't see anything in the chat room, Lisa.
Nothing? Okay, good, good. All right, so let's go back here. Go ahead and share. So QuickBooks has two main platforms. And so here I only have one of the two platforms. So one of them is online, which I presented here, which we'll be covering the most in this session. And then the other is the desktop version. And they mean just that. One of them is online, the other is installed and on your own computer on your desktop. So I have access to both of them, and I do have sample files up for both of them. So as we're going through, if you're on desktop, please do ask the question and I'll show you in your software where it is. Okay, so let's decide which one do we need. Inside of your reference notes, you'll find one called QuickBooks versions. Go to that link and it'll take you here. So we're just going to go ahead and look at the different ones and discuss how do you know which one you need. First and foremost, do not purchase self-employed, okay? Self-employed is not accounting. So if you have self-employed, you actually can't even upgrade it to one of the other ones. You have to start a whole brand new file. The self-employed version is really just an Excel spreadsheet in an application format. So it's more of a low introductory level to recording and tracking, but it's nothing at all like real accounting. In accounting, you can do journal entries, which means, oops, I made a mistake. How can I make an entry that just corrects the mistake? And so if you don't have the ability to make a journal entry, you can't do anything complicated, and your accountant or your CPA or your EA cannot help you. They can't record depreciation for you. They can't record accumulated depreciation, gains and losses on assets, asset value changes, partner additions, or any of those things that sound complicated. Nobody can help you in the self-employed version. So I will not be covering the self-employed version because it is not accounting. But okay, so Simple Start, Essentials, and Plus are the online platforms. The desktop ones are, you'll find right below that, Pro, Premier, and Enterprise. They also have a point of sale version, which I'll explain, but won't cover in this session. Okay, so Simple Start. If you have a brand new business and you're a service provider, you should have the Simple Start. The Simple Start will allow you to create your invoices, receive your payments, track your customers, make your profit and loss reports, balance sheets, use merchant services, connect your banking, and everything that all of the essentials of your business. If you need to send, it doesn't do sales receipts, I don't think. It only does invoicing. So if you need something a little bit more robust where you can track multiple items, receive payments, and have a little bit more reporting around your customer base, the Essentials is going to be a little bit better for you. What I recommend is start with the Simple Start either way, because there's not that much difference between the Simple Start and the Essentials. So why don't I split this? Where's the side-by-side? Hold on. Online. I'm going to click the compare online plans, and this should bring us to a side-by-side comparison. Okay, so you can see here that the Essentials and the Simple Start versus the Essentials version, it pretty much does all the same stuff. Okay, the main difference is going to be the bottom three items here, which is the 3 users, billing management, and time tracking. So if you're the only one that's going to use your QuickBooks, and when I say you, I mean you and anyone that you would mind having your username and password. So if it's you and your spouse and you guys are going to use the same username and password, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you only have one user, because both users are going to use the same platform and can use it at the same time. The only time you would need more than one user, and so that's where the 3-user version would come into play, is if it's you plus somebody else and they're not somebody that you trust 1000%. So if it's an office worker or an admin assistant, then that type of person, you would give their own user so that you can track what they do. There's an audit trail in here. So anytime somebody that's a user logs in, it'll show you when they logged in, what time, what things that they changed, what what did they look at and where did they go? So it is very, very, very useful to have the additional users available in your QuickBooks when there's more than one person. I've seen people get caught stealing. I've seen people get caught not working, where they say they're working, but they hadn't even logged in all day. So just knowing that you have that audit trail available and you don't have to pay anything for it makes this product the best product for more than one user. But it only gives you up to 3 users. But the positive thing about both the Simple Start and the Essentials is your accountant doesn't count as a user. So you can make, you can invite your accountant, and that accountant won't count for one of the users. So even if you have the Simple Start version, you can still invite your accountant to review it, and they don't need your username and password, and it's for free. So on the Essentials version, I believe you can add 2 consultants or 2 accountants, or an attorney or a second professional that you want to log in. All right, let's look at the Plus version. So the Plus version, which is column 3, will give you up to 3 users. Oh, I'm sorry, let me back up. Bill management, the reason you would need bill management versus not having bill management. If somebody else opens your mail and you tell them, hey, open the mail, put it in the system so that all I have to do is pull a report telling me who I owe. That means you don't want to look at your mail, you don't plan on paying it today, but you want to have a list with all the due dates and everything on one report because you're very busy. So if you have somebody else entering in that information and you're reviewing just the reports, then you should have the bill management. Because it's a very good report, very easy to use, and you can pay your bills by just clicking off a couple of things. Your assistant can look at the attachments or can scan in copies of the full bill so you can get to them quickly, and it's just a really useful tool. But if you're the type of person where you open the bills, you just stack them on your desk, you open the bills and you pay them, and that's when you open them is when you're ready to pay all your bills, then you don't need billing management. And most startup companies are not going to need billing management because you just stack them on the side until you're ready to pay them. The time tracking is good if you have a type of business where you want to know how much time somebody spent on something so that you can bill for it. So time tracking, if you have employees that are in the service industry, and let's say I have an accounting company and I want to track one of my employees. They work 3 hours on Joe Schmo's job and they put in the details. If you need that kind of tracking so that when you go to bill Joe Schmo, you have all of the details of what that person did and you want it to import exactly into an invoice and make a bill for you, then you need time tracking. But if you're not going to need anything where your employees are putting in time or someone else is putting in time and that needs to translate to a bill, then you don't need time tracking. Okay, Lori, any questions so far?
Yes, Lisa, there's a couple.
Okay.
From Joseph, was that 200,000 cut off for S Corp's gross revenue or net income?
Net income.
Okay. What is the desire from Jody? What is the desirable debt to income ratio?
Depends on what you're buying. I assume that you mean a house. If you're buying a house, I think it's 60. I think it's 40, no more than 40% debt to income. But it just really depends on that dollar amount.
Okay, great.
If you're buying.
That's so true. From Jen, does the online version allow remote access?
The online version is online, so you can access it from anywhere.
Okay, and I think Ron helped us with that one. Thanks, Ron. Shelley, can you revoke access for your accountant and invite another accountant?
Absolutely. You just hit the remove button and add another person.
Okay, and thanks, Ron, too. Ron also helped us with that one. Quick question, a side one. Lisa, how much access? Is there different levels of access that you can give to outside individuals, like your accountant, your attorney, or your your financial advisor?
So for the 3 that you just gave me as an example, not really. So if you invite them as an accountant user or an advisor, then what you're doing is you're giving them, especially your accountant, you're giving them access to the full thing because they need everything except for the credit card details or payment details of your customers. That is private, and that's because of banking law. So they would need most of the access, so it doesn't limit the rest of the access. If you want to limit access to somebody else, then you would just create a user. You can use one user and call it advisors, or call it whatever you want, or call it guest, right? And you could make that user have certain access, send the invitation, let them use it, remove them, change that guest user. You want to give somebody else a little bit more leeway, change the access, send the invite. And every time you send that invite and change the access, they'll be able to see just what it is that you want them to see. So yeah, but the online version has much smaller. You only have about 2 choices. Do you want them to see AR, AP, or banking? Really is the 3 choices. The desktop versions, you can say exactly which bank accounts, exactly which types of reports, exactly which balances. So you can be really strategic and really stingy with what you show people on the other versions. So I'll go into that.
Okay, and lastly from Jen, is online version the same as the cloud version?
Is it the same as what?
Cloud version.
No. So the cloud version with hosting is where they've taken the desktop version that we're going to go into, and they put it on a virtual terminal server. So they give you remote access. You don't own the license for the QuickBooks software, but you're paying for them to back up your file and host your file and protect it from crashing. And also so that you can let other people in the world or different places access your QuickBooks file at the same time. So it's the remote access version.
Okay, and then also, is the desktop version a one-time fee?
The desktop version is a one-time fee. However, QuickBooks stops the technical support for it after 3 years. So if you were to break down the cost analysis on it, the desktop version lasts 3 years, so divide it by 3 and match your annual cost. I would recommend updating every 3 years because the banking features inside of your software will stop working properly.
Oops. Okay, also, one more question came in, and that is, from Shelley. You mentioned that with the Simple Start version, 2 people can be on the same login simultaneously. Can you see the changes being made by the other person if you are also logged in at the same time?
If you mean see the changes, meaning do they still get to happen if 2 people are logged in at the same time? Yes. But okay. If you mean if one person goes to the audit trail, can they tell which ones they did? No. But yeah, all the changes are happening in real time. So you can both be on the QuickBooks. One person can be making an invoice while the other person is doing the banking in the same user.
Okay, one more question and then we'll continue on with you. Is the cloud version more?
A lot more. It translates to about $90 to $99 per user per month.
Okay, we'll move forward and then we'll continue with the next questions at the next break.
Okay, so the plus version, we're just going to talk about the differences, right? You get 5 users, bill management's there, time tracking, and inventory. So if you have inventory, you need this version. The other versions will do non-inventory. And what non-inventory means is if you buy something, if I bought this specialty stapler, right? And I take that specialty stapler and I'm going to resell it at a different price to somebody else. That's non-inventory. Non-inventory means I'm not going to house it here. It's a special product or a special order. You can think of it as a special order product. And then I'm going to resell it. So it will allow you to track things that are non-inventory. But as far as keeping count of things that you buy a lot of and resell, that would be inventory. So you need the inventory version, which is this one. Project profitability. So there's job costing inside of the plus version. And job costing it's not very, very good in comparison to the desktop version, but it does allow you to take, in the desktop version, they call it jobs, and then in the online project, they call it projects. So the project version will allow you to put in your income, make your invoices out of the project module, and then track your expenses out of the project module so that everything is by project. So if you are doing construction and you want to do the online version that is most close to job costing, this is the one that you'll want to do. It also tracks your estimates inside of the project so that you can convert estimates to invoices quickly without retyping. So I do like that. And it does allow you to use the time tracking that you bill for your invoices also dually for payroll. So if you want to use the same time for certain employees to make their payroll checks, then it's a really good version to have. So again, if you don't need this, then you just need one version down. Now the advanced version, I never recommend the advanced version to anybody because I don't really see where anybody needs it except for the batch invoicing. Now that's going to be really important. If you create a lot of invoices and then you need to send a bunch, this would be like a property management company, and you need to send a bunch of bills out at the same time. This one is really good for that. It'll allow you to do that, to track it, to look at the emails that you sent out. In real time, you can see when people are opening your emails, and it records them so that you can see when they looked at it. This prevents your client from saying, I didn't get it. You can tell when they actually opened it. But the other versions do that little teeny piece as well. So you don't have to worry about getting this version to track your customers. Customized access, it's not great. I wouldn't consider it really, really customized compared to the desktop version. So I would say that, yeah, you can separate different modules, but really only about 3 levels deep. So it's not great, but it's good. Dedicated account team, on-demand training. So really this just has a little bit more support. It has Intuit QuickBooks support with it. If I had to say what's the difference between that one and the others. So I don't feel anybody really needs that. I do think it's overpriced, and these prices are all monthly. So you can see that after the 3-month runs out for this version, you're looking at $150 a month before your payroll costs. Any questions on these real fast before I move on to the desktop?
Okay, there's a couple questions.
Okay.
How much does QuickBooks charge to update on desktop version?
To update?
Yeah.
Updates are free. So
Okay.
You'll open your desktop version and then it'll say, hey, there's an update. And then you'll just click it and then it'll run for any bugs that QuickBooks has fixed and fix your desktop version. If you meant upgrade, then it's the same as buying a new software. So if you bought the $3.99 version, you now have to go buy $3.99 every 3rd year, but they will send you a message once a year in trying to make you buy it. And they'll say, hey, your QuickBooks is almost up, but it's not. You don't have to listen to that message. They're just trying to sell it to you.
Okay, and then there's asking, can you use one plan for more than one business?
Yes, you can use it for more than one business. It would have to be, I think Essentials will do it, but we'll open one and then I'll absolutely know.
Okay.
But it's the one with class tracking. So I think you'll need this one here. You'll need the Plus version. The Plus version will allow you to track things by location and class tracking. And each business that you have, you can call it a different class, and you can look at your profit and loss statement and it'll separate it by class. This is really good for people who have different types of businesses that they're tracking, but commingled expenses across them.
Okay, and this one's asking, would you think it's important to have the version which includes inventory when it comes to my business where I have numerous jury findings to keep track of? Is that what it means?
Yeah, I think you would need the inventory version. Yeah.
Okay, so it's more about the finished products versus the materials.
Yeah, so you create a piece of jewelry from pieces from products. So you're creating a necklace from 15 beads or whatever it is. I don't think that the online versions are the best for you. I think that you should go with the manufacturing version of QuickBooks, which is a desktop version. And that's because you are manufacturing a finished product. Of course, if the cost point doesn't make sense for you, then you should do at minimum the inventory version of the online one, which would be Plus. So, but the one that would actually fix your problem, pull in 15 beads to make that necklace and 2 more of this one and that one to build that necklace, that's the manufacturing version, which is Premier QuickBooks Desktop.
Okay, great. You know what we'll do is we'll continue. We have more questions, but we'll continue on and then we'll catch a whole bunch of questions the next round. Does that work?
Yep. Picking your QuickBooks version is the most important. So I'm really happy to keep covering this, by the way. All right, let me go to products because this is not showing us all of them anymore. Hold on. Reference notes. There we go. Copy.
Yeah, so Lisa, you have a few more questions about the type of QuickBooks. You want me to go through that?
Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, which one would you use for temporary staffing for a contract for a limited amount of time?
I mean, again, it just depends on which of those features do you need. Not necessarily that it's for a smaller period of time.
Okay.
So, yeah, because it's not contractual. So these versions, you can buy it and use it for 1 month and close it down.
Okay. Another one is, does QuickBook Inventory module work well for small business manufacturing processing environment?
No, I would say the desktop version of the manufacturing, same as the jewelry.
Okay, or is it more limited to wholesale retailers?
Not limited, just different in what its abilities are. So anybody who manufactures, I don't recommend the online versions at all. You would need, I mean, it would work for you at first, but it wouldn't be what you need long term, and you'll keep getting mad at it.
Okay, this is from Wesley. At which version can I customize or add an invoice field for customer PO numbers?
Any of the versions. I would say any of the versions, maybe not as much the simple, but even the simple, I think you get at least one custom field.
Okay, because the person said, I know it's not available in the simple start level.
Well, we're going to be using the simple start version today, so I will be able to double check that. But I think that it does do one custom field.
Okay. On the 3rd year of the desktop version, do you stop getting updates, or if you don't repurchase it?
You stop getting updates.
Okay. At which version can I have 2 separate tax rates, one retail and one wholesale?
In all of them.
It is not available on the simple start level, is it?
I don't think you can do multi-states, but you can do wholesale retail.
Okay, how about for a farm?
For which version would I recommend for a farm?
Farm and for a real estate company.
Simple start. I don't think that they need very, very much. Real estate company depends. Are you renting or are you just recording your own stuff? If you're recording your own stuff, go with one that you can put separately each of the properties. So if you're just doing your own stuff, go with the one that does classing. So that would be the 3rd one up, this one. Oh, sorry, Plus. Plus does classing.
Okay. Okay, that's it. That's the last question for us so far.
All right. Okay, so we're going to go and look at the desktop version. So the desktop versions cost a lot more up front, but very, very minimal, as far as analyzing the cost. So the Pro version compared to the all of the online versions, Pro is going to do 90% of everything you can get on the online versions, the highest version of online version. So this online version here, this Plus one, that's $70 a month. The desktop version of Pro will do all of that stuff. So it does do some inventory. It doesn't do inventory by like color or size. So if you're trying to do shirts and pants and and you want to put in each of the items, it does do that. But if you have shirt by size and color, it won't do that in the Pro version. You would get the Premier version. But I definitely think that for the money, you're going to get a lot more on the desktop version. So $3.99 divided into 3 divided into 12 gives you $11 a month is your cost analysis between the Pro version, desktop, and the other. What I do like about the online version, because I know it sounds like I'm bashing it now, it is fabulous. We use it 95% of the time in our own business. And that's because we can get to it, our clients can get to it, we can integrate it, it interfaces with so many different platforms like Square and Elevon and Amazon and PayPal and anything else that you can find online. The online versions will integrate with, and they have so many apps that they're developing for inventory and for other things, sales, CRMs, that they're adding to the online version. So I would say the online version is still pretty fabulous. And if they could at least get the users where you could restrict users a little bit more, our office would recommend it way more. But for right now, because we can't restrict certain persons in some organizations, it doesn't work as well. But it's great because you don't have to pay for hosting. And hosting is, again, $99 a month, so that's expensive. So for the Pro version, $3.99, it'll do everything that the online versions do. The Premier version will do everything the online versions do, and it'll give you custom reporting for your industry. So they have specific industry versions like manufacturing, retail service, retail products, wholesale service, wholesale products, rentals, and really, they have professional industries, et cetera. So the version that you get, the reporting will make more sense to you because they are customized by industry. So I do like the Premier version. It does do, in addition to great reporting, it will have, it does have the ability to do multi-currency. So if you sell in different currencies, multi-currency is awesome. The reporting under inventory is really awesome. It will allow you to do things by color and size. It will also let you mass change the inventory pricing. So if you want to bring everything up by 10%, you can do it in a click of a button. And with all the other versions, it is a manual process, the online versions and the Pro version for desktop. The Premier does make retailing things and manufacturing things so much easier. Enterprise is a really great level where if you are in many different locations and you have, it does a lot of software integration as well. The reporting is really fabulous, but the key thing I feel for the enterprise version is the user manipulation. So you can give certain users access to certain pieces. And if you have a large organization, that's going to be really important for avoiding crossover and people messing up each other's stuff. So I do like the enterprise version because it has the most security. Any questions right now?
Hold on, let me see. Okay, the question is, which desktop version would be best for a contractor starting out with no employees?
Which desktop? I think that you only need Pro.
Okay.
Yep.
Can the desktop version be downloaded to only one computer?
No, it can be downloaded on several computers. It's just the data file where your actual data is held, you would have to move that to another computer to see the data.
Okay, so what happens when you purchase a new computer in 3-year span? I guess you can move it, that information, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Under the file menu, you would make a backup, put it on a thumb drive, and move it to the new computer.
And that's it.
Okay. All right. So I think that we've kind of beat that one down a little. So that would be the different versions of QuickBooks. And so first you have to make that decision. Today, we're going to assume everybody's using the online version with the exception of, I think, 3 people that said they were on desktop. So when we cover something that you can't find in yours, just say it in the chat. Okay, so one of the other things that you do have to decide when you're purchasing your QuickBooks online and your desktop, you'll get a pop-up ad for payroll add-on. Do you need payroll? Well, let's go back to our entity conversation. If you're a sole proprietor, does the owner need payroll? No. If you're a partnership, do you need payroll? No. If you're an S corporation and you're the owner, do you need payroll? Yes, you do need payroll. So if you're not, don't add the payroll. But if you have employees, then you can add the payroll. Now, once you add the payroll, I think that they have options still where you can either buy it monthly or buy it annually. I don't like contracts. And so doing it annually, they sometimes will do a refund in case you decide, you know what, this is too hard for me to do myself. I want to go ahead and give it to an accountant. Well, if you've already prepaid, you know how it is with getting refunds from anything. It's not fun. So if I had to give advice on which way to go, I would go with the monthly, because what'll happen is you won't lose the discount. You'll continue to get those sales emails from them, and they'll say, hey, you can pay for a year and we'll give you a discount. And so you'll always have other opportunities to get the discount for paying in advance. They have different versions on the payroll, and the different versions are basically do it yourself. And that's when you put in the hours and then you click the buttons to make the reporting happen to the feds. And then number 2 would be they do all of the reporting, so they automatically do it for you. And they will have pop-up messages in the event that a payment is missed or a bank account doesn't clear. And as long as you pay attention to the alerts inside of your system, you should be fine. So I would say if you wanted to try and do it yourself, go ahead and try and do it yourself. It's not complicated, but at least watch some of the tutorials that they have for you. And if you don't watch the tutorials, you might make a mistake. So I highly recommend, if you're going to do it yourself, watch the tutorials. Okay, so what is payroll? Let's at least cover what it is and how you can plan for it, because it is a very important part of your business. Once you're looking at your reports for your finances and you say, hey, I'm making enough now and I'm exhausted enough that I need help. So now you're ready to take your business to the next level, duplicate yourself, or at least boost your income some while paying someone else to help you. So that's where payroll comes in. And so payroll, you're going to have a couple of expenses. So if you remember being an employee, you had 7.5% of your paycheck missing, and that was for Social Security and Medicare. Then you also had federal income tax and state income tax missing. And those were the 3 main things that were missing from your check. So we're going to look at the employee column here, and we're just going to see what kinds of things come out of the employee's check. Because now you're the employer. How does that translate into your responsibility? Well, if you were supposed to pay somebody $10,400 and they said, can you withhold my pre-tax retirement plan with you? Can you withhold my pre-tax medical plan with you, and my federal income taxes, my state income taxes, and my Social Security you're withholding? You actually only paid this person $7,779 when all is said and done. So the difference of what you withheld from them or withheld on their behalf is not your tax. You're still paying them the same amount, but it's not your tax. It's just you're holding it and you have to pay it out. So a lot of people go, oh, I don't want to do payroll anymore because it's too expensive. It's not expensive. You're just not thinking about it right. You never gave it to them. So you never paid them all the money. So that's where the $3,000 comes into play, and you just hold the rest of the money. You as the employer don't pay that much. You're going to pay the other half of the federal income, the Social Security, Medicare, or FICA. So 7.5%, you can see there's $780 that they took out, $780 that you are paying on their behalf. And so that's where your cost is, that 7.5%. Other things that you have to account for that you're paying for are going to be workers' compensation, federal unemployment, state unemployment, temporary disability or TDI, medical costs, and et cetera. So in the event that you want to pay somebody $10,400, you are really paying $12,662. So it's a 20% cost to pay an employee. But if you're also counting the $3,000 that you took from them as part of your cost for that employee, it's always going to seem really expensive. Do we have any payroll questions?
Hold on. Yes. He says, whoops. I think somebody's responding to that one. I think Ron is responding to helping manufacturing, processing industry has special software that integrate with QuickBooks. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's the only one. Shelly has one, but she just put FICA up there. I'm not sure what that meant. Here's another one. Do you have preference?
Asking what is FICA?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So FICA is Social Security and Medicare. And when we were talking about SE tax, it's really the same thing. So you see here how I have FICA is 7.5%. When we're talking employees, we call it Social Security and Medicare. When we're talking about you being self-employed and filing your income taxes, that's when we call it SE tax. It's the same darn thing. So if you add 7.5 on the employee side and 7.5 on the employer side, it's 15%. And that's why when you're employed for yourself, that's why you pay 15%, because you don't have an employer paying your other half.
Okay. This other person is asked, do you have any preference between QuickBooks Payroll versus Gusto? Gusto has many features.
I like both. I like Gusto. I like QuickBooks Online Payroll. I think Gusto is a little cheaper and it does import into QuickBooks properly. I've always been able to figure out where one or the other came from. So I don't have any negative opinions about Gusto, and it is cheaper, like I said. So I don't have a preference.
There's a comment. Can you comment on using QuickBooks for Payroll V5 using a service like Paycom or Paychecks?
I don't understand the question in full, but QuickBooks Online uses Paychecks to, or do you mean the Paychecks software, the separate Paychecks software?
I think it says there's a, can you comment on using QuickBooks for Payroll? And it's a V, I'm not sure if it's the version or it's the number 5. Payroll V using a service like Paycom or Paychecks?
Pay.com, and so I'm familiar with Pay.com, and I think you mean Paycheck. So you're not talking about the Intuit one inside of QuickBooks, because QuickBooks has, so when you run payroll inside of QuickBooks, it sends you to a workforce, which when you pull down your stubs, it says Paychecks, so it's confusing. But yeah, the other ones, you know, Gusto, Pay.com, all those, they integrate really well with the QuickBooks software in much the same way. So I don't have any negative opinions about it. I would say go with cost and customer service. And then of course, if you have CPAs and accountants, do check pricing there, because here's the benefit of having an outside person to talk to. When you go with software and it's just processing stuff for you, here's what you're losing. By having a CPA or an accountant or someone else doing your payroll, and I preface this with who is knowledgeable, you can manipulate your payroll. So if someone comes to me and says, hey, Lisa, what should I do? Do my payroll on my own or hire you guys to do the payroll? I'm going to say, hire us to do the payroll if you want to have big tax deductions. If you come to me at the end of the year and you say, hey, I have $80,000, I don't want to pay the tax on that, what can I do? And I say, oh, why don't you set up a 401k plan? Let's get that added in there. You can do a pre-tax deduction and you can have your company match that. Or you can get all of your employees on a plan. You could do an SEP plan or a simple IRA plan and do a contribution of 3% per employee and reduce all of it. That probably went all over everyone's head. But basically what I'm saying is any last minute adjustments cannot be made quickly by Gusto, by Pay.com, or by anybody. Those are people that need to make those adjustments. Those are people where if in January you go, oh crap, I forgot to tell so-and-so that I actually paid for my own medical and I need that to show up on my W-2. They're not gonna go back. There's no person on the other end of that phone that's gonna go back and fix that for you. It's just, you'll have to make the adjustment on your tax return, and then your tax person, who's now different from your accounting person, who's now different from your payroll person, they don't all talk to each other. It's gonna get missed. It's just a fact. So I highly recommend that if you want to do any kind of real tax savings and that's the level that you're at, don't process your own payroll.
Okay. Will QuickBook allow me to take their payroll tutorials to learn it so I can do it myself?
Yeah, yeah, and they're all free. They're mostly on YouTube.
Okay, and that's the last question.
All right. So to end the payroll section, I'm just going to say all of the forms that are related to each of these lines on here, QuickBooks will do the forms for you. The ones that are insurance related, QuickBooks won't do the forms for you. So the ones on the bottom where it's workman's compensation, temporary disability, and medical, those are not covered by QuickBooks. Those are still manual checks that you still have to send out. All right. Any questions? Okay.
Nope.
Okay. So now we're going to set up QuickBooks. You have a couple of different ways that you can set it up. The first way, and I'm going to assume everybody already at least has one set up, but after you buy one of these, you're just going to kind of go through the motions. It'll ask you for your business name. It'll ask you for, your business address, blah, blah, blah. And that's right after you hit buy now. It'll get all that information. It'll build a file. It'll take about, 3 minutes to 5 minutes to build the file, and then it'll tell you you're set to go. You'll have to do a confirmation email, and then you're good to go. One of the really, really good things that I love about the online version is the app. Not the app that's online, because if you're currently using that, they sent out a message that they're going to be discontinuing it, but the phone app is amazing. So the phone app will allow you to see all that great stuff right from your phone, minus the sensitive things like payroll. So it's awesome. You can also create invoices straight from your phone, send it to your clients, take payments right from your phone. So it's pretty amazing. I do love that part. You cannot do that with the desktop version unless you have the merchant services and buy the little swiper for your invoice, for your merchant services. But for that reason alone, QuickBooks Online will take your business to the next level because it'll make you mobile. All right, so after you buy it, you fill everything out, then you have to decide, how do I want to get the information into my QuickBooks? So option one, you can finish the quick interview, which it'll prompt you for. What kind of business do you have? What do you do? Do you have an accountant? Little silly questions like that. You can answer them or you can click skip it. Import from Excel. So if you have all of your customers already in Excel or all of your customers already in some other platform that can be exported to Excel, all of your vendors, all of your inventory, all of your chart of accounts that you've previously used with your last accountant, those can be imported in Excel. So don't do the extra homework of trying to put them in one at a time, because that can all be imported. It can be imported by just simply pulling it in, or a copy paste into their template. So very, very efficient. Import from desktop version of QuickBooks. If you are on desktop and something today makes you feel like, hey, I wish I had a little bit more mobility and I want to use the online version, you can set up the online version for free and not put in your credit card or anything, go with the trial version, and then do an export from desktop into the online version, try it out, and then put in your credit card later if you like it. So I highly recommend that if you're moving from desktop to online, to go with the trial version, because the desktop version does so much that people who usually convert to it hate it. So that's all I'm going to say about that. I personally, again, we use 95% QuickBooks Online, but I can tell you people who move from desktop don't like it. Import from another program. So QuickBooks Online will import from several other programs. And if you can't figure out how to get it into the QuickBooks Online, see a QuickBooks Pro Advisor. Our office does have Pro Advisors. We can take it from another version into QuickBooks Desktop and then online. So there's a conversion tool that can be used. Also, I do think that QuickBooks will try and do it for you. So if you have the time, go ahead and use QuickBooks Intuit, and the advisors there can do it for free as long as you have the time availability. Any questions so far?
No questions so far.
Okay, so now the next one is a blank canvas. So we're going to go do the chart of accounts setup. I'm going to show you where that is, and then we're going to paste what that is to do here. All right, so I also sent you in the reference notes a test drive. So I want you to go ahead and click this test drive, which is right in on our website. And it's the first button. It says test drive right here. And we're going to be looking at Craig's Landscaping. And as everybody opens this version on your own computers or just watch me, that's fine too. It's your own personal web browsing test drive. You're not going to see any of my changes. It's per person logging in. All right. So it's good for your session only. All right. So one of the things that we can see is there's going to be a landing page. And since there's so many different versions, your landing page may look a little bit different, but not much different. So we're just going to conquer the meat and potatoes of the version. So the landscape, the Craig's Landscaping across the top will have where your business name is. It'll automatically appear there when you put in your information when you're purchasing. If you want to add a logo, you click right here and add logo. Doing this will add the logo automatically to where your invoice would normally show. So you can go ahead and put it in here. I'm going to go ahead and click add logo. We'll see if the test version will let us do it. So this is your account settings. Okay, and then here's the logo. So when you first open up your QuickBooks version, fill out this section. So this is the logo portion. You would hit plus and then grab it from your own computer. I'm going to go ahead and hit plus here and just grab something. Let's go here. I'm going to go pull this logos and I'm going to pull this up. All right, open. And then it uploads it just like that. Okay, and then you hit save and then it should show up in the upper right-hand corner after we close out. So your company name that you want to show on your invoices could be different from the company name that you have legally. And that would be for companies that use a DBA or doing business as name. It could also be that you have several trade names and you want to focus on one of your businesses. So you want that to be your company name. So that's where you would put here. ABC Inc. Okay, this is where you put your federal ID number. Don't put your social in here. Never put your social online anywhere. And then hit save. So next you're going to have other tax form section. And this is where you'll choose what kind of entity form are you filing. So make sure you fill that out too. If you don't fill this out, there's no harm done. You can still use your QuickBooks. But if you do, some of the prompts and assistance and help in the software will help you better because it'll be targeted to the type of business you are. So I'm just going to pick this one. Industry type, I'm going to pick landscape. Okay, so save. You can put in your company email. Company email is going to be the email that when you call into QuickBooks, the one that they use to identify you. The customer facing email is going to be the one that appears in your invoices that go out in your sales receipts. Your website, if you don't fill this out, it can't, the templates for the invoice won't be able to pull in information. mypersonalcpas.com, and then I'm going to put in our phone number right there, save. Okay, and then company address, company facing address, I'm going to put in, that's fine. Legal address, marketing preferences, yeah, so just fill all that in. Sales, let's go to the sales part. Under sales, there's going to be different preferences and you'll want to turn on anything that you are using. By default, most of the options are turned off, but there are a few that are turned on, like deposits. So invoice terms, net 30 means that you want your reports to show late after 30 days. If you want to show late after 5 days, you change it, okay? Preferred delivery method will default to print later, but you can change this to email or send later. Send later means email. Shipping, this is going to be, do you need a column or a spot on your invoices for shipping address? So that'll show the mailing address on one side of your invoice and then the shipping address on another part of your invoice. Shipping address can be used interchangeably with jobs. So if you're a contractor, you might want to use shipping address turned on so that your invoice will show your side for the mailing, and then shipping can be the location of the job. Custom transaction numbers. All right, so some people like to do their invoices somewhere else, and then you have specific ways that you call your invoice numbers. I've had people say that that they call it the first 3 letters of the customer name, and then they give it a number, like I don't know, Charles 501. That might be one of the customer names. If you turn it on, you'll have to put in your custom invoice each time. If you leave it off, QuickBooks will automatically use the next available number. So when you make your first invoice and call it invoice 1000, it'll numerically go to 1001, 1002, 1003. And every time you change the number, it'll go to the next number up from that. So I do like the automatic transaction number feature. So I like to turn it off, but you can turn it on if you want to do custom. Okay, service date, that would be if on your invoice, you want to show the date that you provided a service to the customer. If you don't need service date on your invoice, you can leave it off. Discounts, this would be if you have the gross that you want to charge the customer, you want to show a separate discount line. Now the discount line is self-calculating. So you can add features like a percent of discount, 5% discount, 20% discount, and then it'll automatically calculate based on the whole. Don't turn this on if you want to do something like specific discounts for specific line items. In other words, you have 3 things on an invoice and you want to give a discount on one of those 3 things. So if you use the discount line and it'll automatically do a discount, it's going to discount the entire invoice. So, but if you want to give a discount overall, have it turned on. So I'll show you that in our software. Deposit. Now, if you want to take deposits from people because you're going to receive deposits on a job, it's very, very easy to accidentally count something 2 times as income. Once when you get the deposit and then again when you're making the invoice. So I highly recommend that if you take deposits on jobs, go ahead and use the deposit feature and turn that on. Tips and gratuity. If in your business, people give you tips and you want to have that line separated, I don't have any clients at all that use this feature because tips, we usually pocket those. But I'm going to leave it off for purposes of our conversation. Okay, products and services. These are just things that you want to turn on top of your invoices and sales receipts. So SKU, you'll only have the SKU button if you're using the inventory versions. So SKU will mean that you want to record a SKU number for one of your products. Turn on pricing rules. That's a whole nother conversation. We're going to leave that off. Quantity and price. I always have quantity and inventory quantity on hand turned on. And if yours doesn't have inventory quantity, that's fine. But the tracking quantity and price rate will allow you to say, I have 2 items at this price, and it'll automatically calculate the 3rd thing. So, you know, if you don't turn that part on, it won't show the 3 columns. I'm gonna hit save. Late fees, if you want an automatic charge after your net 30, net 60, net 5, or whatever date, then you would turn this on. I've had a lot of unhappy clients see that, you know, there was an automatic charge and then they get an automatic invoice. So we don't do automation, but if you want that, then you can turn that on. Progress invoicing is when you want to create an estimate for what you believe a job is going to cost. Then you want to create a job, an in-progress invoice, meaning you want to bill for 20% of the job and make an invoice, and then 20% again, and then make an invoice, and then another 20% and make an invoice, or whatever percent. But the point is you want to make more than one invoice for that same original estimate. A lot of construction will use this because they have the 10% retention on the back end. So they're often billing up to the 90% and needing to see that 10% left over. So turn on the this feature if you're going to use the job costing, right? Or the progress invoicing. Messages, default email messages with sales forms. This is where you would change the messages that are attached to your invoices that go out. So if you filled out the rest of the information, your business should already have sincerely and then your business name. And this should be the standard information that's in there. Invoices attached, please remit payment at your convenience. So that's standard. If you want to say something else, for instance, insufficient funds will be a $30 chargeback or something like that. Or if you want to pay by credit card or you want to pay us cash, call us on the phone. I don't know, but anything you want to add would go right here. And then this next section here is, do you want it to blind copy to another email address inside of your organization? Do you want it to send in, will there be a no reply? Do you not want people to reply to the main address? So this is the section to make those decisions, okay? Estimates, this is the email section for estimates, and then you can make it bigger or smaller by just dragging it down. I'm gonna write hello here. All right, so reminders, invoice reminders. So if somebody still hasn't paid the invoice, do you want it to automatically resend to them? As long as you don't have that other automatic late charge turned on, I don't see why anybody wouldn't want this turned on. You know, it's a good feature to have where it'll automatically resend out. And you can tell it how often to do it. How often do you want to bug your client about this invoice? You know, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and what do you want it to say? So this is awesome. I would say definitely turn on your reminders. All right, sales forms, email options. Now this affects the size of the emails that are going out and the size of the emails that save down into your email program, such as Outlook, etc. So if you want the full PDF of the invoice attached, you would leave the PDF attached on there, which I like, I use it. So I'm gonna leave it checked off. And then plain text or HTML. HTML is visible on your cell phones and plain text is too. HTML is gonna be a little bit prettier though. So I like HTML in general. Let me hit save. Okay, so yes. Hold on, I didn't. Oh, this says I can't make changes. Okay, so on the statements, which I really like, cancel there. So statements, if you are sending out statements, and you absolutely should at least once a month to tell people, hey, you still owe me money and you owe it for these invoice numbers, and it just gives a nice consolidation. This is especially good if you have a customer that has multiple jobs with you. So if they're doing multiple jobs with you, they might need to see overall how much do they owe on their account with you. So I like to do the single list so that it just shows the invoice name. But if you do the invoice with detail lines, it'll say invoice this, and then it'll give a few lines of what it was for. I'm gonna hit save. Okay, any questions? Lori?
Yeah, sorry, hold on. I had to unmute. There's just a couple.
Okay.
Does QuickBook have a referral relationship with other industry-specific software providers, like farm versus restaurant versus food manufacturers products that integrates with Desktop Premier?
Desktop, yes, they do have some that integrate with Desktop. Yes.
Okay,
So
or is it robust with functionality?
No, I don't think that the desktop application integration is a really good one. I think that the purpose of the desktop is so that it is already robust enough that it doesn't require the use of other softwares to integrate. The reason I'm saying that the desktop version add-ons are not good is because you are going to run into a couple of different things. One, your firewall could block it. Two, your bank may not have the applets, et cetera, necessary to integrate with it. Specifically, Bank of Hawaii on the desktop version, the banking integration doesn't even work. It hasn't worked in the last 15 years. So they don't even care about QuickBooks. They've never fixed it. So just a couple of integration problems with anything that goes online. The desktop version just isn't good. But it does do so many things. Like I said, the inventory, the currency change, multiple currency. It does over, I think, 300 reports. It also does custom integration with reports in Excel outside of QuickBooks, where you can make manipulations in an Excel file and it'll import back. It's really fabulous in itself that any of the other integrations shouldn't be necessary, or maybe you just shouldn't be on QuickBooks if you still need it on the desktop version to integrate. The online versions are not as robust, so they require additional application help.
Oh, interesting. Okay, this one comes from Celeste. Can you export from one version of QuickBooks and import it to another QuickBooks? For example, a bookkeeper of a club has his own QuickBooks.
Mhm.
Now there is a new bookkeeper who does not have access to other person's software.
Yeah, definitely. And that would be a good time to switch to QuickBooks Online too, because you're going from one software platform where that person may have really loved it, and then you put it up in the cloud. Now, for chambers of commerce and other types of membership groups, I always recommend that you have it online, because you're always going to have somebody that quits. You're going to have a board member that doesn't want to do it anymore. And you're always going to run into the problem of, how do we move the software to the next person? How do we move it to that person? If it's on the online version, you just click change user and done. Now the other person has access.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does this system work when you use consignment?
Consignment, desktop version is better for consignment. Yeah. The online version can be tweaked for consignment, but it's going to be a manual process. It doesn't do location inventory.
Okay, this one is from Michael. Would you suggest setting up an integrated single business entity with 3 business lines as one set of QuickBooks, or you need 3? For example, sales are made at wholesale, retail, and food service. Maybe this is similar to desktop enterprise that can track multiple locations.
So it depends on how the legal entity is set up. So if you're going to do a legal entity where food, service, and something, and they're kind of related, I would say maybe put all that together. I do have a food industry client where they do distribution sales. So they have a warehouse where they distribute food. They also have a restaurant, right? And then they also do mobile deliveries. And they feel that these are 3 different businesses. And most people would feel that there are 3 different businesses. So what they've done is they have one legal entity where it is structured as an LLC, and that LLC owns the other ones. And so it files one tax return for all of them, but there are 3 LLCs beneath it. The 3 LLCs now have limited liability between each other, so they can't be sued across companies, but they file one tax return because the parent entity will own the other ones. I said all that to say, if you're going to structure it in such a way that you are protected, then put them all in one file so that you can file an accurate consolidated tax return and use the classing that's available in the Essentials version or the Plus version.
Okay. This one, Mallory. So if you bank with a small credit union, Hawaii First CU, which version should you get?
The online version does almost everybody. Really, it does. So let's try. Let's see if we can find it. But I believe that Hawaii USA and Hawaii, I don't know about Hawaii First, but most of the banks are in here. So under banking, you would just go to set up a new one. And then when you're in that new one, you just try to find the website. And if it appears, it's good to go. So okay. I think that if you already have yours, just go ahead and do a search in there.
Okay. So it says here, hold on. QuickBooks, for integrations that QuickBooks offer, are they simple one-click integration, or do they require technical assistance from a developer?
They are simple one-click. You'll want to definitely, we call it mapping. The technical term for it is mapping. You'll want to go through the initial questions very, very slow, because once you connect them, if it is too directional, so you'll want to contact the software company just before doing the integration. And something you'll want, and this is across the board for all applications, find out if the information is too directional. If it's too directional, that means the information goes from QuickBooks to their software and from their software back. Most applications are one directional, where they come from the application and in. So if you ever cancel that one, then you're okay. It shouldn't continue to sync up. But if it's too directional, you could end up with duplicates going both ways sometimes. So I don't love too directional, because you can't stop the problem as fast. So definitely look for that. But as far as it being easy, they're all easy. It's one click. You answer a couple of questions, mapping questions, and mapping questions mean, where do you want, when you make a bill in here, what line do you want it to show up in your QuickBooks? When you have an expense like this, where do you want it to show in your QuickBooks? Once you connect that, you're going to have to delete everything if you made a mistake.
Okay. So what are your thoughts about linking Square to the online version?
I like it.
Okay. All right. That's it. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Where are we at? Payroll setup. Okay. So the chart of account setup. So first, let's just talk about what do you see on the left side? What do you even use in here? Okay. So banking is where you will sync your bank account online with QuickBooks. So if I had to explain this, and I often do, it is a housing place. When you do things, when you go to the Chevron and you buy some gas, now that's a transaction. This transaction will show up in your online banking at your bank. This banking center in QuickBooks is a place where it downloads here temporarily. It isn't until you say, yes, go to my QuickBooks, that it actually gets to your QuickBooks. So we're going to look at this example here. It says in this checking account, the bank balance says I'm overdrawn $3,621. QuickBooks says I have $1,200. I have 25 transactions I still haven't added. And that's why there's a big difference between the two. So some of the good features here are you can, and again, anything in this banking download section is not in my QuickBooks yet. I have to tell it to go there. So it shows up on my reports. So a couple of ways to use this is you can click date so that you can do everything by date and it'll reorganize everything that was in April. You can click description and organize this by description so that it downloads with all of them in a row. You can click payee, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to go ahead and do this one. So Tanya's nursery. At Tanya's nursery, since I am a landscaper, what kind of expense is that? Obviously, I bought some flowers or dirt or something, right? So I'm going to go Tanya's nursery, categorize this as what? Here's a category. My category is going to be landscaping or cost of goods. So when you click here, you're going to be able to see all these little items of different types of expense categories. And this is going to fall in line with that first worksheet we gave you in session 1, where we said, hey, you need to be aware of the different categories so that you can put them somewhere. So these categories is what we call the chart of accounts, or the categories. So we're going to go first to see where do you go to set this list up. All right. So in this example, it would be like job materials, plants, and soil. Okay. So I'm going to tell it, hey, this Tanya's nursery on 4/27 was job costs and materials for 108.09. Right? You can hit add or you can hit match, whatever you want to do. I'm going to hit match because it means I put that in my QuickBooks before. Now it's being downloaded and I don't want to enter it twice. I want to match it so that it just knows that I already had that in there. So anytime your QuickBooks says match, that's what that means. It means you already put it in QuickBooks somewhere. You probably need to just match it so it doesn't get double entered. But back to that chart of accounts. So the chart of accounts is listed under accounting and then under chart of accounts. So this is where you can change, fix, manipulate, add, subtract, delete, make inactive, any accounts that you put in here. So when you go through the question system, it'll put in certain accounts based on the way you answered those questions. When it asks you, what kind of business are you? What do you do? This is a very general, very novice, very low grade chart of accounts, but it's something. What you do need to go back in here and do is create the ones that will be more for you. So I'm going to click type and organize this by type. I like to have all my bank accounts at the top and then the rest of it in, bank account at the top. Accounts receivable, you don't have to do anything with that. There's an inventory that will automatically be in there. So some of the things that you might want to change are income. Okay. Income, if you want to track certain types of income and you want to see them separated on your profit and loss report, this is where you do it. This is not where you put every single line item that you want to sell. Okay. If you want to sell, for instance, jewelry, I know we have a jeweler here, necklaces, gold, silver, separating it by different types, like this is not the place for that. This would be where if you have a boutique and you sell jewelry and clothing and shoes and handbags, where you would be able to detail and see those in those types of categories. But the yellow beads versus the red beads and the gold versus yellow sales or that kind of thing, this is not that place. So this is the general categories, and you kind of want to keep it to under maybe 5. Anything more than that's a little bit overwhelming, because don't forget, a profit and loss statement is what your banker sees. It's what your accountant sees. And they don't care about how many different types of income and how deep that goes. There's other reports that you can pull that information from. All right, before we go on, do you have any more questions?
Hang on.
Okay.
I don't see any so far.
Okay. All right,
good job.
Okay, so income is one area. So this is the income section. I'm just kind of going down. How do you make an income, and how do you make it look like this? See how there's labor, and there's labor installation, and there's labor maintenance, and then there's job materials. There's decks for job materials. There's fountains and gardens for job materials, and they're separated. What this separation does is when you're looking at reports, I'm going to go ahead and click reports here. And then when we go look at a profit and loss statement, how do those chart of accounts translate here? This is how. When I'm looking at a profit and loss statement, see, this is ABC Inc. profit and loss statement, and I can see my design income, my landscaping services income by job materials, by labor, etc. So I can see all of this in here and broken down. So if you want to see it broken down on your profit and loss statement, that's where you would, that's how you would categorize and group things. So I'm going to go back to the chart of accounts. And I'm going to make a quick snip for this and just say, so the chart of accounts is coming from here. Copy, and we're going to go stick this in our paste. Okay, so that you can remember that this is how you get back to the chart of accounts. All right. So other things. Now the cost of goods section, let me scroll back up. Okay, we had income. Right after income, I feel like is the cost of goods. So the cost of goods section is the same as an expense, but it's different. When we were covering the fixed expenses and we were covering the variable expenses, this is a variable expense. It means every time you make more income, this expense will go up. So you need more job materials, more job labor when you sell more sales, when you do more construction, when you make more restaurant sales. So anything that changes with income, you'll want to create that as a cost of good. So let's go create a couple of items so that you know what I'm talking about. You can click the new button on the upper right-hand side, and you're going to have a couple of categories to choose from. So the first account type you have to decide is, we were looking at banks, we were looking at assets, fixed assets, payables, credit cards, and income. So the other one that we did was income. And then you see under income, how do you want to group this income? Sales, a product, primary, whatever you want. And then this is where you would name it. My test income, okay? And then you would, if you want to subcategory that, that's where we were able to see this. This is a subcategory. The subcategory is a category underneath another category. So if I want my new category to show up under this one, I just click it and I hit save. Okay, that'll put it underneath that one. So we're going to do a cost of good, which means I have a variable expense that's going to change with income that I want to show in a separate category. Okay, so I'm going to pick supplies and I'm going to call this my test cost of goods. Okay, and I'm going to put this under not income, but under another cost of goods. Or I don't have to do that at all. Let me see. Oh, I only have one. I don't want to make it a sub. I'm just going to leave it out. Okay, so we hit save. So my test, save. You can see my test cost of goods is there. And I can put things in that category now and it'll show up on my profit and loss statement. So as you're going through to decide what kinds of expense categories are important to you, the ones that came with your QuickBooks, just inactivate the ones that it will allow you to inactivate. Some of them it won't allow you to inactivate because you might need them. You do need them. Like design income. We know that the only person who's going to decide your income categories is you. So you're not going to need this one. You can either make it inactive or go edit the ones that came with the program and just change the name, right? That way you can still use it. You don't have to make it inactive, but you can just change the name. What if you made the name 2 times? Okay, I'm going to look at this design income and let's say this one was also called design income. Design income. I'm going to just do something real fast. Okay. So I accidentally have 2 income categories called design income. See that? So now when I'm looking at my profit and loss, one of them is going to show somewhere and another one's going to show somewhere else, and there's not going to be a total. And so that irritates me because I want the total, right? And so a lot of times, we make mistakes like this. One of them might be called trash and the other one called refuse, and they mean the same thing and you want to combine them. How do you combine them and make your profit and loss statement less ugly? So I want to make these the same. First, you have to just make sure you look at, hey, what is this? What kind of detail type is this? What kind of type is this? And you have to make them match. So I'm going to make this one match this one. I'm going to go into the one that I want to match, and I'm going to change, what was it, sales? Oh gosh, I can't even remember. Discounts. I'm going to change it to primary income. So primary income, and I'm going to hit save. It says changing the detail will affect your accounting and reporting. That just means it's going to retro change everything that I did wrong before. I'm going to hit yes. But see, it's still not together. Why is it still not together? Well, this first one is not a subcategory of anything. And this second one is a subcategory of something. And that's why they're still not together. So I'm going to uncheck this one, and then I'm going to get a message from QuickBooks. It's going to say, you already have that name. Do you want to merge these 2? I'm going to say, yeah, I want to merge them. So now I only have one. Okay. So don't go deleting everything and inactivating everything. If you've been using your QuickBooks and you have 2 accounts that are the same, or something that you used to care about be separated that you no longer care about be separated, you can start combining some of those things to make it more feasible. Okay, any questions?
Yep, we have questions.
Okay.
Do you need to set up the GL account codes as well? Example, 5,000 pertains to revenue accounts.
So QuickBooks is supposed to be for your use. If you need GL accounts or your CPA requires that you use GL accounts for their reference, then go ahead and turn that on. You can turn that feature on by doing, well, what that means is that you would have an extra field up here for use accounts. So I can show you where to turn that on. If you go under the gear in the upper right-hand corner and then click account settings. Come on. I think it's under advanced. So under advanced, you'll see this chart of accounts, enable account numbers, and you can turn that on. Okay, show account numbers. So you can turn it on so that they can be usable, and you can check box it if you want them shown on the actual profit and loss. But no, the answer is it's not required. This is up to you. Most people don't use it because if you're a small business owner and you're doing your own, then you don't care about accounts and you don't understand. I mean, you didn't go to accounting school, but you are able to turn it on and make it function more like accounting, real accounting. So if I go to my reports now and I pull up a profit and loss now, I haven't numbered anything. Let me go back to my chart of accounts and I'm going to just put a number on something. Edit. Hey, where'd it go? In this test file, it's not available. I can't change it, sorry, because we're playing around in it. But yeah, after you turn that on, it'll show account numbers. You can add account numbers and it'll show up on your profit and loss and balance sheets.
Great. Okay, next one from Shelley. What's the best way to track subscription bundles in the inventory section? Should each product within the bundle be tracked or the entire bundle?
I don't know if maybe you just want to take off your microphone and ask your question in full, because if you sell subscriptions, then you would want to keep them separate. But if maybe you, I don't know. Do you mean that if you sell them as a group all the time, how do you make that group show up each time?
I know. Shelley, you want to unmute yourself and ask?
Yes, I'm here. So essentially what I'm asking is, I'm going to have bundle products. So multiple items for within one subscription. Should I track each item in the inventory section, or should I track the entire bundle as one product?
So it sounds like you need to use grouping. And so when you group something, it means that you personally have 5 subscriptions and you want to sell the 5 subscriptions as a bundle at a different cost than the individualized group, individualized pricing. So if you wanted to do that, you would, of course, it sounds like you already have your items list. And in that items list, you would do new group bundle, right? Set up well, it used to be called groups, but bundle, call the bundle something. And then you would just choose each of the items that's inside of that bundle, like that. And then every time you use that bundle line in your invoicing, it'll automatically pull them all in. So it'll give the total. You can put here, display the bundle components when printing. So if you don't want them to see all the line items, you don't have to. You can just check this box. But if you do want them to see it, your invoice will reflect, bundle 504, and then a list of all the things in the bundle. And if you want to use a different price, go down here, show more. Hold on. I think I'm shooting test bundle display, and sorry, I don't think we can see this whole column, but the pricing is on the right side. So whatever the pricing is that you have for each of the line items, it'll tally that and give you the bundle price. You can also just change it so that none of the prices of the other one are showing, and then just use only the bundle price. So if there's a discount, what I recommend is you put all the bundles together, let that show up on your invoice, and then add a discount line so that they know that they received a discount with the bundle.
Perfect, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So now that kind of leads us to, products and services. So that was our next section anyway. So first thing you need to know is we did the banking, and in the banking, you're just going to be categorizing, right? We're going to come back to that real fast. You're going to be categorizing the money that you have already spent, and by clicking each of these and then choosing a category based on how you made the category in your chart of accounts. If there's a category that you didn't like, or it's missing a category, you absolutely can create the category straight from this window. So if I want to call something a test category, because I didn't have a category for it, I can make it new right here. I don't have to go back into another section. I don't have to go find it, and I don't have to go reference my notes. Just make the category. The worst thing that can happen is you have 2 categories. You know how to fix that. You can fix it later. So it's better to do it than not do it. So I'm going to make one called expense, an expense category called test category, save. Okay, and I'm going to add this. Okay, so your whole job is to make sure you've categorized what you've spent. So you'll always want to come into banking and categorize what you've spent. So in order to make money, you have to make invoices. And so we're going to go ahead and cover the sales section. So under sales, there's product and services. You can't even make your first invoice unless you have products and services that you're going to sell. So this is the products and services window. It's going to be blank if you hadn't started anything. It functions the same way as the chart of accounts, where you can set up the products and then you can make subcategories within that. So here's one called design, and this is the design of fountains, landscaping, right? Sprinkler section under landscaping, pest control as a separate service that they're providing. And it's really super easy to set these up. So under the first thing you'll want to do is you'll have 4 different categories. You can't use the bundles at all until you have your items set up. Inventory is going to be, again, products that you bring in, hold them, and you sell. So if it's non-inventory is going to be, you don't have to track this item because it's a specialty product and you were just going to bring it in only for the purpose of selling to this one person, right? Or this one company. So that's what you would need to know there. Service, everything else pretty much can be called a service. Because if it's not an inventory or non-inventory, it's going to be a service. So I'm going to go with non-inventory. And I'm just going to call this one test 1. Okay. And in test 1, I'm going to call this test 1 group. Actually, I'm going to call this new designs. Okay, category. Now, categories are where we showed the sub-accounts that it's going to be under. So my new designs, under designs. So I want to separate my brand spanking new ones for this year under that one for whatever reason. Okay, new designs. This section here where it says your product or service, this is what's going to show up on your invoice. So if you want your invoice to say a whole lot of stuff, stick it in there. However, if you want to change what you say every single time you sell this product and you want to customize that experience, then don't fill this out. However, if you have something that's baseline, you know, like this is my 2021 floral designs, right? I can put a little colon, and then every single time I sell my new design, I know that this is going to be my 2021 floral designs, and then I can put the specialty item after that. So sales rate is going to be whatever you normally would sell this for. So if you have an hourly rate, that's where this would go. So I'm going to just put that minus 200. Okay. And then this income account is, you just made your entire chart of accounts to tell us what categories were most important for you to see on your profit and loss. This is where you tell the line item that you're selling to go to that category and show up on your report. So I'm going to call this, I think I made one called test, didn't I? Test category. No, I didn't make one called test income. I'm going to make one. Test income. Okay, so I want my new designs to show up in a category called test income, and I'm going to hit save. All right, so I'm also going to show you how to do an inventory line item. Service lines are pretty much like the non-inventory that I just made. So we're going to skip service lines, but here we're going to do test product, and here's where you could record SKU numbers, individual SKU numbers. Category, this is where you would, again, choose the category. I'm going to go with design. Actually, I'm going to go with landscaping. And these questions are self-explanatory. Initial quantity on hand. If you're starting your QuickBooks in the middle of your year and you've been doing business all year, this is asking how many do you have right now, right? How many do you have today, so that when you sell tomorrow, we'll already know that to subtract 1, right? So if you have 12 on hand today, that's what you would put. Or if the last time that you remember even recording something, you would put the last date. This is kind of tricky. You might want to get help here if you're trying to make sure that you get this as accurate as possible. The part where it gets tricky is if you have last week's quantity and you plan on putting in individually all of this week's sales, you need last week's quantity, put in this week's sales, because then it'll equal the correct amount. If you are planning to put in all of this week's sales, but then you put in today's like already sold quantity number, it's going to subtract from that when you put in the sales. So you have to use a little bit of knowledge here on, hey, what's going to make sense? If I put last week's numbers in, this week's numbers in, tomorrow's numbers in, how am I going to end up with the correct number? So if you don't know how to do that, definitely get help. Asset inventory account. This will default to the only inventory asset account that your QuickBooks will create for you. If you want to look at two different ones, for instance, someone mentioned consignment inventory. You could make one of your inventory asset location couple A, inventory asset location Y and I, and then you could track the ones in the two different locations. So when I said, yeah, does it, but this is what I meant. You can, but you'll have to go ahead and make one location with all your inventory parts, another location with all your inventory parts, so that when you're selling in between your two stores, you'll be subtracting from one and moving it to the other one. Or of course, on consignment means it's not really in your possession. Let's see, sales price, sales of product income, purchasing information. So purchasing information I like, because whoever you normally purchase from is who should go in this category. If you don't have anybody that you normally purchase from, don't worry about filling that out. It's just that if you do, when you're using the purchase orders inside of your QuickBooks, this will allow you to go ahead and just pull in the vendor that you normally associate with it. Otherwise, fill in the cost per item. If, again, you don't have a cost per item if you are doing non-inventory, but the cost per item now that you're paying would go here. So it's the cost that you're going to pay on your next purchase order. This can be changed every single time you purchase something because there's always different pricing. Cost of goods, this would be, I'm going to put it to my test cost of goods. And then my preferred vendor would be, I don't know, I'm just going to pick somebody. And this is my test product. Save. Oh, I'm going to put something in. I'm going to leave this off. Save. 0. Today. Save. All right, so now that we've made a couple of products in here, one item and one product, I'm going to go ahead and create an invoice. So we already kind of customized our invoice, but let me see if we can go ahead and, where is my customize invoice button? Under your little gear, you'll have custom form styles. If you click that, this is where you can further define how you want your invoice to look. And you can also make copies of other invoices if you're in one of the higher versions. So first, I'm just going to go ahead and edit this one, but you can start with the blank one, but I like to edit. So I imported the logo. So if you remember, it's going to pull in where it allows it to. And it's giving me, you know, date, activity, blah, blah, blah. So it's going to default to all the bells and whistles. And if you want to pull some of that back, this is where you can do that. So on the design, you can pick fresh, modern, and it'll kind of change it to, you know, it has more, it's more bold, it uses more ink when you print, less ink when you print. So these are all different ways that you can do this. So I'm going to just choose this one, and we're going to go to splash on some color, and then I can change how this looks. I'm going to go with a purple color, right? And you can change the font types here. We can go bigger or smaller. And then you can change the page margins, meaning how wide this shows. So this is just where you can go ahead and change some of the how it looks when you're sending it out. Don't go with the defaults, of course. Make sure you do make some adjustments to yours. Now, when you go to content, this is where you click on the certain parts. So it's divided into 3 parts here. The top part is going to be the first one that I'm going to edit. And it says, hey, what do you want the business name to show up here? This is where you change that. phone number. Do you want it to show or not show? So you can click it on, put dashes in, right? I'm going to add my phone number, let it show up. So here you can see it's going to show up in the upper right-hand corner. If I want to take it away, it just disappeared. Adding the email or adding, taking it off, putting the websites on, form names. Is this going to be called an invoice, or do you want to call this a proposal? So whatever your preference is for, most contractors like to use the word proposal rather than estimate, so you can change it. Transaction numbers, this is if you were using the custom transaction numbers we spoke about. And I'm going to go ahead and just take this out. All right, emails. This we also customize a little teeny bit, where we told it, hey, what do we want it to say? And this is the subject line of all of your emails. What do you want it to say? You can change the greeting, dear, Mr., Mrs., and the reminder email. So you can come back in here and further customize. Okay, I'm gonna hit done. Any questions so far?
Yes, there's a few. Hold on for one second. Okay. Why will QuickBooks not check that there is a duplicate in the design income account?
It doesn't know because one of them was a sub account and the other one was not a sub account. So it doesn't know.
Okay. Can point of sales interface with QuickBooks?
QuickBooks Desktop, yes, and QuickBooks Online, no. And if you meant QuickBooks point of sale interface with QuickBooks Online, no. QuickBooks point of sale desktop interfacing with the desktop, yes. But if you meant other types of point of sale, possibly. Those do integrate pretty well with the online version. I have seen some, so you'd have to check in the apps. See down here under apps, that's where you would check to see if yours is integrated.
Oh, nice. Some, such as, what is that? Arived, Toast, and Square, and others do, according to someone. Okay, perfect. Okay, and that's it.
Okay. All right, how to record different expenses. Okay, so I know I only cover from banking where you would put the expenses, but I do want to just at least quickly show you, if you don't connect your banking, how would you do it? So if you made your chart of accounts, right? Major chart of accounts, I'm going to go back into this one. Checking, okay, I'll just leave that. So I'm going to look in my checkbook register. Okay, let's say this is not a connected bank account. I want to go old school and I want to put all my own stuff in. So I went to the store and I bought some gas and I need to record it. So a receipt is sitting on my desk and I got to go put that in. So I'm going to add from here inside the checkbook. And this is easy to understand because it's just your checkbook. The same way we learned in high school to keep a checkbook register. This is a checkbook register with one extra thing. You just have to pick a category. That's the only extra thing, okay? So I'm making a debit or writing a check or making a debit, same thing. And you put the date, and then here, if it was a debit, you don't need a check number. And I'm just gonna put Chevron, right? Chevron, I'm gonna hit enter, right? It's gonna ask me, do I wanna save this new name? Yes. And then I spent $50 and it was on gas, right? Fuel. I just typed in auto so that it would, because I didn't know if it was called vehicle or auto or gas or fuel. So I went with auto. And then you just hit save. So let's say you write a big check to somebody and you don't want to wait till your banking downloads. You want to remember that you wrote that check because somebody may not cash that check for several weeks, several months, right? So I do like to put checks inside of my checkbook register because those tend to take a long time to clear. So that's how you would do it. Let's see, integrating with bank downloads, merchant services. So to turn on your merchant services, you would go to the gear and then under account settings. And then under the account settings, there's going to be, I think, sales, usage, where to go? It's not in here. I want to say it's going to be, yeah, it's not in here in this test one. But you'll find inside of this location that there's a spot for the merchant services, and then you can just click it, you click add, You just go through the application process. The application process is simple. It's just your business name, which it'll import if you fill this out, your business type, which it'll import if you fill this out, address, etc., email, your Intuit account number, it will pre-fill. So if you made any mistakes, you can go ahead and change them before you send your application. And then right after you send the application, it should work within 24 hours. So you can start taking credit cards right away. So just for kicks, we're going to go make a bill. I'm going to go sales, invoice, and then I'm going to go make a new invoice. So I love this feature here within the invoices because you can see who still owes you money, who just paid money, who's past due. You can click off everybody who's past due or anybody that you want to send reminder messages, and you can send mass reminder messages. You can click send reminder, and then it'll generate an email to everybody with a copy of their invoice. So I love this place here. Create an invoice. Come on. All right. So this is where you would choose your customer or create a customer. So I'm just going to pick, close. Sorry, this is asking me to set some stuff up. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and choose a service date, a product. I'm going to go with my new design that I made, my new design line. And then this is where I can put whatever I want as my details of this sale. And then I can say that she bought 5 of them, and then it'll automatically calculate. Along with that automatic calculation, it can charge the tax, and it can, well, here, of course, it would be Hawaii tax. You would add the tax rate. But so it'll go ahead and calculate the tax for you, or you can tell it not to calculate any tax by unchecking the tax button. Okay. And then you would be ready to go ahead and send this invoice. Now, if you've turned on your merchant services, there will be a button up here, which will say that it's ready for Visa and MasterCard. And then you just send it, save and send. So when you save and send this, it's going to come with your logo, with your, here's your invoice. Your client will be able to click it, open it up, pull a full copy of their invoice, click a button, and then pay you. And then around 1 to 2 days later, it should show up in your bank account. So it's pretty fascinating. Do we have any sales questions? I know we're starting to run out of time.
Yeah, we're running pretty close, but we have no other questions. We have about 4 minutes on the clock. Unless you want to stay later, or people want to stay later, but 4 more minutes left.
Okay, well, I don't have, I mean, there's going to be so much we didn't cover. So if anyone has anything specific, you can just ask me and I'll just answer it. Might be faster if you just
yeah. If you have any questions, just unmute yourself. It's a good time. We have a few minutes left. You're welcome to ask Lisa directly. You have any questions? Yeah. I don't. Oh, Lisa, you did a good job. I don't see any questions, and I
think everybody's tired. Me too.
You did a good job, but thank you very much.
Okay, so if anyone wants to ever follow up with me directly, we do free consultations. So I'm not telling you to contact me so I can charge you, but you can just go ahead and contact me and I'll send you I'll just send all of you my free consult link. How about that?
Yes, that'd be great.
And then that way, if anyone wants to schedule, you can just schedule a quick 15 minutes and me and my team will be happy to help you.
Yeah, if you can put it into the chat room, your link and how they can get that free consultation with you.
Yeah, definitely. Because if you didn't get to answer your question or ask it, then I hope that you can.
Yeah. Someone is asking, how long do you have access to the test version of QuickBooks?
Oh, it's been on, that same test version has been up for the last 15 years.
No, how long do they have access to it? Is it something that like only for like when you sign on to it, like 10 days?
No, the test drive is free. That link works all the time.
So just ongoing.
Yeah,
okay.
It's just ongoing. Yeah. So when you close out of it and you open it next time, the changes you made last time won't be there because it's just for the session. but the link always works.
Okay, someone's asking, where in QuickBooks do we account for accrual versus cash?
Oh, good question. That's a quick answer. When you go to the reporting section here, you can pull up any of your reports, but I'm going to do profit and loss, right? And so in your profit and loss, you would just choose whatever date period you want to see. And I'm just going to do year to date because it defaults to that. So this is defaulting to accrual method, which means that invoice that I just made should show up in here because it's not paid for yet, right?
Right.
So let's see. I'm just gonna look at 2 days date. May run report. Oh, that's my fuel. I don't remember what day I made my invoice for. Sorry. But yes, this is where. So this report here on accrual basis will reflect the invoices created and any payables or credit card balances that you're carrying and loans that will reflect here as far as the expenses associated with those. If you click cash, it quickly switches to things that were already paid for. That's it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Also, someone's asking, QuickBooks Pro looks very different. Oops, just missed it. Than this training. Is there a resource for training for the desktop version?
I wouldn't say there's YouTube videos, but they're becoming a little bit obsolete, although their product does sell very well still, and they are going to continue it. They are not making a whole lot of videos on it. So I wouldn't say that you'll find a lot on it, but yes, you'll find some.
How would you record paying yourself as a sole proprietor in QuickBooks Desktop?
Okay, let me go ahead and I thought I had a sample file already open. Oh, I do. Okay, can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the desktop version.
Wow. Okay.
It looks so very different. One of the things that I like to do when I first open the desktop version is I like to change my view so that I can see everything that I've opened for my session open on the left side. So I'm going to go open window view and come on, open window view, left and top icon bar, sorry, open window. Okay, so now I can see anything that I am going to open and show you right here. What was the question again as far as recording something?
This person was asking about, training.
Oh, training.
How would you record paying yourself as a sole proprietor in QuickBooks?
Oh, okay. So this is going to be either way, whether it's online or desktop. But the entry is just going to be, I'm just going to go to the chart of accounts, right? And I'm going to pick the checkbook register in here. And in here, the next check is at the bottom, and in QuickBooks Online, the next check is at the top. So, but it's the same thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and write a check to myself, Lisa Wills. And depending on how you are organized, it's going to be what equity account or what account that you're putting it in. So if you're a sole proprietor, it's just going to be owner draw, right? $2,000 owner. I don't have one in here. This one is, this example doesn't have one. So owner equity or owner draw, that would be the single member LLC or sole proprietor. And then I like to call it investments as well. So owner draw or investments. That way money going in or going out from you personally would be in this account. So you would set that up as an equity account, equity.
Okay. Perfect. And then one of them from Joseph is, would you categorize something like contributions to a Separate IRA as an expense or another account?
So a SEP IRA, that's going to depend. If you're talking about pre-tax, it should run through your payroll. But if you're not talking about pre-tax and you're talking about the company's contribution to yourself and other employees, you would need to record it in a specific way that looks like this. Are you in online or are you in desktop?
Joseph, you can unmute yourself and you can, online, he said.
Okay. So let me go back to the online version just so I can help you with that. Is it this one? Oh, I can't find it. This one. Okay. So in the online version, you have to create a SEP payable and a SEP expense. Okay. So the entry would look like this: new journal entry. Okay. So this is the first entry, because the SEP, you can put into it all the way to October of 2021, but it might be for last year and you need it to show for last year, right? So I'm going to go 12/31/2020. Okay, so if you want this to show for last year, this is how you get it in for last year and paying it this year. So SEP expense, right? SEP expense. And I like to put it at the very, very, very bottom of my expenses. This doesn't really matter. I'm just going to put business expense. So a SEP expense.
Can you close? Give me a glare. I'm taking picture here.
Okay. Okay. So, and oh, sorry, other expense. An other expense called SEP expense. There we go. Okay, so an other expense called SEP retirement expense or something like that. Okay, and then the other category is SEP payable. Okay, SEP payable. And this type of expense is going to be a current liability because you're going to pay it within 12 months because that's the requirement, right? So I'm just going to call this current liability, just like that. SEP payable, other current liability, other current liability.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay.
Someone's asking, would you be able to show that, Lisa, desktop as well, the SEP contribution?
Yep. So it's going to be the same type of accounts, but I'll show you where the journal entry function is. So let's say you're going to do 25,000. You can do up to 55, I think. And the entry goes like this. Okay. It's going to be left side, right side. And what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and put this in the reference notes so that you all have it for later. Okay, the journal entry. All right. And so after you make this entry, and hit save, this is how it'll look on your profit and loss statement. So I'm going to go to last year. Last year, where is it at? Last year. Okay. Cash basis, cash or accrual. See? So you can see now it's on there. I haven't paid it yet, but we know it's a deduction for last year on my taxes, and it's now showing up. When I look at my balance sheet, it's also going to show up as something that I need to pay. So I'm going to scroll down here, SEP payable 25,000. So I now owe my SEP contribution company 25,000. Now, the question is, what do you do when you need to go pay the 25,000 out or you're making payments towards the 25,000? The account that you're paying down is this one, the SEP payable. That way, every payment you make will bring that balance down, and then it doesn't affect the fact that you've already recorded the first 25,000, if that makes sense. Okay, so in the desktop version, same thing. It's going to be under company and then make journal entry. And under company, make journal entry, you're going to make sure that that is dated for last year, right? And then you're going to use the SEP expense and the SEP payable accounts as well.
Okay, is that it? Oh. Oops.
Oh, and I think I was supposed to send you guys the chat message for any consultations later.
And then also, it says, can you deduct SEP as a sole proprietor without a payroll?
Yeah, you can. You can definitely do a SEP for a sole proprietor. You can definitely do a single K. It's a 401k plan that's for individual owners, and you can do a simple IRA as an individual owner.
Okay. Then also, if time permits, the person is asking, can you describe how your firm takes on outsourced bookkeeping from small business? I guess you have an onboarding, maybe, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah. So if we were to take you on, we would, of course, do a consultation. It wouldn't just be the free consultation, but a full consultation in which we would need to ask you who's on your team? How many people do you have helping you? We're not in the business of taking your money when we don't need to. Again, I told you we want to build your business. And so if you already have viable resources inside of your business, we want to help you utilize them. So we may tell you that, hey, all you need is training. Since you have these 3 people available to you, is there someone you would trust that we could train? So we could offer you training. If training is something you've already done and you're done with them, you just want to pass them over, we would just look at a couple of bank statements 3 months back to see what your activity looks like. And then I would provide you with a quote. And based on transaction, we don't base it on your company's size. So it doesn't matter how many people you have in your company. It doesn't matter how many, if you do 1 invoice per month, but it's a big fat one, we're not charging you based on how much you make. It's going to be based on how many transactions are running through your account. So we can cover that in a consultation.
Okay, great. I think we're done. I don't see any other questions. Thank you for everyone for being here. Special thanks to Lisa for spending her, several hours with us. I know it's exhausting, and have a good weekend. Everybody take care. And, if you have any questions, you can either email us at VBOC of Hawaii, or you can contact Lisa as well. So we'll be in touch, and have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe. Thanks, Lisa. Much appreciated.
Thank you.